What's going on YouTube? It's Deej, back again with another video. Today we're running through an updated 2024 NFL mock draft. We've hit the point of the year where I'm going to do these pretty frequently. So if you like mock drafts, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Got plenty more of these coming your way. Hit the like button if you enjoy. And of course, let me know what you think about this mock down below. Who should have gone in the first round? Who went too high? Who's your favorite team? And what are some of the prospects you're keeping your eye on this draft season? Let's go ahead and jump right into it. And also, I should note, we are going to have trades in this video. So we're going to have at least one team moving back. And actually, I think I have the same team moving back a couple of times. So let's go ahead and jump right into it, starting with the Chicago Bears. And as of right now, I think I got to go Caleb Williams. And actually, talk about the Bears, I may do a mock next weekend. If the Bears and the Panthers both lose, we're talking about Chicago picking 1 and 2, and I have to do another mock draft. So you may get one next weekend, maybe the weekend after. But regardless, look, if I'm as big a Justin Fields guy as there is. He was number 3 player on my big board in 2021. I was pumped up about his potential. Thought San Francisco should take him at 3, but simply put, from a passing perspective, it just has not developed yet. Maybe it's Luke Getsy, maybe it's him. I think there's equal blame to go from both sides, but the pieces are there. This should have been the breakout season. It just hasn't happened yet. A lot of year left. Maybe we can change our mind. Maybe Chicago's not picking 1, but if they're picking 1 for a second consecutive year, they're not trading the pick this time around. They're going to draft Caleb Williams. Then we get to the Denver Broncos, and I misspoke. So there's not actually going to be a team that moves back twice. I did think about that for Denver, but I'm just going to have Denver and Minnesota basically trade places here. We're going to go 1 to 2, and then basically it's going to be a 4th-round pick for the Vikings, and including a future 2nd. The trade engine makes it go through. Don't yell at me. Yell at Mock Draft Database. That's the mock draft engine I use. And with the Vikings at number 2 overall, they draft Drake May. Last year under contract for Kirk Cousins. I think we've all been kind of ready for Minnesota to turn the page and go to another quarterback. And especially considering they're paying a lot of money to TJ Hawkinson now. Even a guy like a Josh Oliver is making decent money as a second tight end. You got to pay Justin Jefferson. You're repairing that defense. Getting a rookie contract at the quarterback position would go a long way at maintaining the strength Minnesota has, while also ushering in new players that they really need to patch up some holes that this roster still has, specifically on the defensive side. And plus, I would just love to see Drake May in Minnesota. Him and Justin Jefferson would be an awesome 1-2 punch. So next up, we get to the Denver Broncos, and I don't know where they would go here because it's still a good roster, right? And the contract's still unmovable in a Russell Wilson standpoint. So I'll just go Marvin Harrison Jr., best player on the board at this point. He might end up being my number 1 player on my big board. We'll see. But it's going to be him or Caleb Williams. This offseason, once Sean Payton got there, there were trade rumors around Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, and then Tim Patrick's missed back-to-back years now. I could see a world where Payton looks at this and says, hey, Marvin Mims is a player. He makes big plays. Now I need my elite number 1 go-to guy for the offense, and it's none of the other guys that we already have here. So they draft Marvin Harrison. They move some of the assets they already have, and then basically going into 2024, we would see the Broncos be fully in the image of what Sean Payton wants. So don't know necessarily this would happen, but if the Broncos are picking 3 overall, the top 2 QBs are gone. You can't move on from Russell Wilson. You can't go wrong with the next best player on the board, which is Marvin Harrison Jr. So then we get back to the Chicago Bears, and to me, after this plenty of times on the channel, it's the worst defensive line in football. You got to get some reinforcements there, both in run support, but also pass rush. And specifically pass rush here, we're focusing on with Jared Verse. He's a pretty good run defender, so that's the edge well at 250 pounds. He's pretty strong for that size, but he's an elite pass rusher. And to me, edge 1 in this class. Got it from speed, a power, the hands. To me, the full package there. So easy edge 1 here, and it go a long way to reinforcing that Bears defensive line. And then we get to a couple of AFC West teams, and this is where we're going to have a little mini corner run here. We've had 2 corners go in the top 10, 3 of the last 4 drafts. I'm going to basically have that happen here with Kool-Aid McKinstry going to the Chargers. Look, they're benching and, a healthy scratch to J.C. Jackson. It just has not worked out, that signing. Michael Davis is fine. Asante Samuel Jr. is a bit of a gambler, but also a guy who misses time and, when his games don't pay off, gives up a lot of chunk plays. So long story short of it, they're still looking for an upgraded corner. Where this gets tricky is I don't think this is Brandon Staley's defense that he's leading next year. So I don't think Kool-Aid McKinstry would be a great fit for Staley's defense, but we'll see what happens to this coaching carousel the rest of the season. Maybe Staley keeps his job, but if he doesn't, it's going to be a new defense coming in, and maybe that's a fit for Kool-Aid McKinstry. But if it's not McKinstry going 5, Kalen King would be an awesome fit, and basically I just have Kalen King be the next pick. These are the top 2 corners for me in the 2024 NFL Draft, and they just do it in different ways. McKinstry, maybe a little bit less of the god-tier athlete that Kalen King is when it comes to a change of direction standpoint. I certainly think King has the leg up on him there. But then Kool-Aid McKinstry has crazy arm length. He's 6'1", 16 PBUs last year, already got one this season. They just kind of do it in 2 different ways. So I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. It just comes down down to picking what flavor you'd prefer. And both these secondaries desperately need help. If you watch the Bills-Raiders game, you know this Raiders defense is rough. And it's such a bad defense that it made Matt Canada and the Steelers offense look pretty good when they were down Deontay Johnson. So, basically, everyone on that Raiders defense, it's not Max Crosby. Nate Hobbs is pretty good, but there's a lot of holes to go around there, especially in the secondary. Keelan King would go a long way to patching that up. Next, the Arizona Cardinals here at 7. I didn't feel great about anything in this spot, to be honest. I can totally see where Monty Austin-Forth is prefacing that he wants to trade down here. We have one more trade, but it's not going to be with the Cardinals. Said I'm going to give him Emeka Egbuka. They could use one more wide receiver and a sharp route runner, right? Like I think of Michael Wilson, if he's healthy as a possession type. You got Hollywood Brown there to kind of be yards after the catch, big play guy over the top. Rondale Moore kind of does a little bit of the same stuff. They're just kind of missing this, like, hey, it's 3rd and 8, need a sharp route here, need to get open, move the sticks. They're kind of missing that go-to guy with D-Hop not there. So I think Egbuka could be the route runner this team is kind of missing right now. I still think he's someone that should go somewhere in and around the top 10. All right, this is going to be our second trade, and it is for this mock draft. We're still in September. We got a long ways to go. I'm going to have a trade here, though. I'm going to have Tennessee moving back and trading places with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I just don't know what Tampa Bay's thinking for quarterback. So when given the opportunity, basically package up this second move up 9 spots, and a guy that I haven't gotten to talk about in a mock draft yet. I think the last one I did was with Elmary Sports. If you like his videos, definitely go back, check out that older mock, see how we kind of collaborate and get some thoughts on what prospects we like, which ones we're kind of a little bit seeing differently at this point. But let's go Shedeur Sanders. And to be frank, I mean, I know last weekend was rough for Colorado. You're seeing this on Saturday, so hopefully it's a better story to be told for Sanders and crew there in Colorado. But look, it may have been rough against Oregon, but that's still a really damn good team. And still, when I look at Shedeur, he's got everything but the arm strength. And would I want him to have elite level arm talent and be able to push the ball deep down the field, have a ton of zip on it? Yeah, sure. But he's got enough mobility. He's got great pocket awareness. He's got plenty of touch, be able to layer throws. He's got good accuracy. He's really got it everywhere else. And it's not like the arm is so weak that it can't work the next level. So average arm, but he's got everything else. Kind of sounds like a guy who might be able to go top 10. So wasn't really on my radar to be a first-round guy. He was in my early QB rankings to talk about, discuss, but he was an honorable mention. I was kind of thinking round 3, round 4. But now I think he's played well enough to warrant first-round conversation. And I don't know what long-term position, what the quarterback position looks like in Tampa Bay. So maybe Shedeur Sanders is that answer there. All right, then we get to the Cincinnati Bengals at 9. And I mean, would this be allowed? Can you let the Cincinnati Bengals get Brock Bowers? Can that offense get more OP? Let's also just be honest here. There really shouldn't be a reason the Bengals are picking 9 once we get to next April. This should be a team that, hey, they won Monday night against the Rams. Now this is the catalyst for them to turn around. Hopefully that calf with some time heals up for Burrow. We get to see more of the arm that he does have. While it's not elite, it's certainly better than what he's put on display this year. But if they do pick 9, they get to add Brock Bowers as that slot, tight end, middle of the field replacement to a Tyler Boyd. You still got Andre Yoshivas. You still got Charlie Jones to be wide receiver 3 and 4 of the future. So basically, it's Bowers work in the middle of the field, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. I mean, dare I say, Bowers and those two guys might be a better trio than Boyd and those two guys in like 5 years' time. So that'll be really, really fascinating thing to see if it could play out, what ultimately that offense looks like in some years. But I don't think this will play out. I do think Brock Bowers should be a top 10 pick. And here, the fit just made too much sense. I just don't think we're going to see Cincy pick in top 10. Next up, Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm going to go with Johnny Newton here. He's just been more of exactly the prospect I thought he'd be coming out of Illinois. Really stout run defender, smart pass rusher. I'm not saying he's the most gifted athlete or most, eye-popping from a frame and movement skill standpoint, but he does enough there. Like, he's a good enough athlete. He's got enough size and enough strength to where, just being a really well-rounded, high-technique type of guy is all you need. And he's such a good run defender, too. So I think this helps out Jacksonville a ton, where Roy Robertson Harris so far has taken a little bit of a step back. Folo Fatukasi has been a great interior signing. At least the way he's played this year hasn't made that signing look great. So could see them needing some reinforcements, both from a run-stopping standpoint and some pass rush juice. And I think Johnny Newton gives them exactly that. Next up, the New York Jets. And, hey, we got 2 tackles that I think should go top 10 falling in this mock draft. But, hey, that's the fun we get to have in September. A lot of weird possibilities we can explore. And here it's Olu Fashanu somehow falling all the way down to 11. Probably the best pass protector in this class. I think I still like Joe Alt just a little bit better, just because he gives you a little bit more as a run blocker. I think he's a little more well-balanced, but Alt's going to come off the board here in just a moment. But Fashanu, like I said, best pass protector in this class for a team that might have Aaron Rodgers coming back for one more year. We'll see. If he comes back, then you have to make this a precedent because, look, Dwayne Brown's been brutal this year. he's not going to be on the roster next year. So you need to find an elite pass protector, blindside protector for Rodgers, or whoever does end up being the quarterback of the Jets. Next up, the New England Patriots. Thought about Joe Alt here, but we did that in the last mock. So I'm going to go Keon Coleman. A guy that I didn't talk about my wide receiver rankings, wasn't in the last mock, but my oh my, has this guy been a big-time riser this college football season. Sure, maybe the in-game production's been a little hit and miss, and it's been a little up, a little down, but when you're 6'4" and a god-tier athlete and a former basketball player at the Division I level at Michigan State, you've got my attention. And it is interesting. Johnny Wilson's so big that he kind of makes Keon Coleman feel smaller than he is. But then you look at what he's listed at. He's still 6'4". So even if Florida State's maybe boosting there, he's probably 6'2", 6'3", something like that. So big guy, really fluid athlete, really great contested catchability and spectacular catchability. You see that in that Week 1 game. Against LSU. So, yeah, big-time riser. Really been impressed with what he's been able to put on the field. And, yeah, him and Johnny Wilson, that's an awesome 1-2 punch there. And for New England, I mean, how many years we've been talking about the need a wide receiver? The fit there just makes too much sense. Next, let's get to the Arizona Cardinals. I'm a little hesitant to do this, but Cooper DeJean, I think he should be somewhere in this early, mid-first round conversation. I look at the Cardinals, and while Jonathan Gannon's not calling plays, but made a spot for C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and could DeJean kind of take that, or DeJean take that role? Like, I kind of think strong safety, slot corner is the best place for him right now. I don't know. With more time, I may change my mind and say he's an outside corner, or no, he's a free safety. But right now, I'm thinking slot and strong safety hybrid. Take advantage of his movement skills, get him in the box. He's a willing tackler, hard hitter, but also can do a lot for you in coverage. And plus, Nickel's the new base. He's going to be on the field a ton. And I almost wonder if Jonathan Gannon could kind of just put in this insane athlete with an even bigger frame than C.J. Gardner-Johnson has in that same type of role and just let him be a playmaker. Like, I think the fit would be a really interesting one. And a lot of mock drafts I see have DeJean go into a team that already has that strong safety nickel corner hybrid. So I'm trying to find a place that doesn't have that. And it feels like Arizona might be the place for him to go then. All right, next up, New York Giants. I'm going to give him a nice possession receiver here, Rome Odunze. And really, I think Odunze is a guy who's a jack of all trades. Maybe he doesn't have one absolutely spectacular elite trait, but man, he does everything really well. I definitely think 6'3", 200 pounds, he could be that big body target this team's missing. That's in the wide receiver room at least. Waller can kind of do some of that, but I think they need it on the outside as well. And he's also a guy that I think paired up with Jalen Hyatt, these two guys and where they feast really complement one another really well. Hyatt obviously the over the top threat, pushing safeties back, opening up middle of the room or middle of the field space for Odunze. I also think Odunze is a pretty good yards after the catch weapon for that offense, so he can also simplify the game for Daniel Jones. So I feel like wide receiver is still a big thing that they're looking to address. I like the value there for Odunze at 14. All right, next let's get to the Los Angeles Rams, and this is where the Joe Alt slide will stop. Again, to me, he's OT1 still. I love Olu Fashanu, but Alt hasn't allowed a sack yet this season. He's an awesome run blocker, towering guy, but also really good on the move. To me, he's just kind of got a little bit of everything I'm looking for. And obviously comes from a school with a great pedigree of developing these offensive linemen, right? And he's been a multi-year starter and multi-year one of the best tackles in college football. So he's got plenty of tape to be impressed by. So I like that fit a lot. And hey, look, Joe Noteboom's been rough. And then, the depth of that position's even more, hard to watch, we'll say. And then Rob Havenstein, too. You got to think about how much longer he's even going to play and be, the right tackle moving forward for the Rams. So tackle in general, you got to address, especially after watching that Monday night game against the Bengals where Trey Anderson's just teeing off against whoever's playing left tackle for the Rams. You got to address that here. And I think Joe Alt's a big way to take a step in the right direction. All right, cool. Now let's get to the New Orleans Saints. And I'm gonna go back to wide receiver here. I'm always fascinated to see what this Michael Thomas New Orleans relationship is going to end up being. But, it was a one-year re-signing, restructure, however you want to phrase it, this past offseason. But because of that, he may hit the market and go elsewhere, right? So why not keep a guy in-state, Malik Neighbors, kind of like Keon Coleman. Didn't talk about him in my wide receivers video. Didn't talk about him in the last mock. But a really fluid athlete. Doesn't have the size of the frame or the strength that a Keon Coleman has. But he just makes the game look so simple. Really sharp route runner. And he is a good contested catch guy. He just does it in a little bit of a different way. I don't think I want Neighbors going up and high-pointing footballs. But, 3rd and 8, I'm throwing him a curl route. I know he's going to go attack the football. He's not going to let a corner get in front of him. So he's always positioned himself really well. And again, on top of the movement skills in the hands that he has, big fan of Malik Neighbors. This is just a really good wide receiver class, to be honest with you. So let's have him stay in-state, go to New Orleans and be that Michael Thomas replacement. Pair him up with Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed and let the big plays go all around the yard. So we get the Tennessee Titans after they move back. And, a guy I was a little hesitant to buy into this preseason was Denzel Burke. I saw the talent, saw the arm length, but it just felt like there was still something missing. Well, this year he's been shut down. And that's been a huge step forward in the right direction for that Ohio State defense that was kind of looking for a number one guy to kind of emerge, and that Denzel Burke has been. So, like I said, he's already got the physical, kind of traits you want with the frame, the arm length, the athleticism. Should be a guy who crushed the combine. You just need to see the play kind of go to that next level, that elite tier, and now he's finally hit that with the Buckeyes. And to be honest, Tennessee's just given up way too many big plays given who I like in that secondary. I'm a big Elijah Molden guy. I like Christian Fulton coming out of LSU. A lot of guys in that secondary I'm a big fan of, but they still find a way to give up so many big plays. I mean, look no further than Amari Cooper getting behind the defense a couple times this last Sunday. So let's try to get them some reinforcements, and let's hope that, Denzel Burke is that number one shutdown corner that takes that defense to the next level. Next, the Dallas Cowboys. A little outside the box thinking here. I don't really love the interior offensive line group. Don't know if there's a first round guy, but I'll go Grant Barton. It's interesting. I was looking at Mel Kiper Jr. and his early position rankings, and he's got Barton at center 2. And he plays left tackle for Duke, and I'm projecting him as a guard. So could be kind of this year's Peter Skoronski, where it's name a position, the guy's a football player, he'll go fill it. He'll fill that role, that is. But I just think the arm length is going to prevent him from playing tackle. But considering I don't know what Dallas necessarily wants to do with Tyler Smith, he's been a pretty good guard. I figured he would play tackle at the next level, and he has played tackle last year. But this kind of gives you flexibility. Whether you think Barton's a better tackle, you're going to keep Smith at guard, or if you think, hey, Tyler Smith, this is the chance, next year he's going to become our left tackle and Tyron Smith replacement. Grant Barton's the guy we're going to draft to be that left guard replacement. Either way, offensive line's been such a strength for so long for Dallas. Don't want to see a hole pop up there. I think Barton gives you enough flexibility to kind of move the right pieces around when push comes to shove. Next, Green Bay Packers. Look, offensive line's another one I could go with here, but at this point, I'm starting to not love the value as much. Look, they've addressed the position with day 3 picks like a Zach Tom, who I think is a really good football player. But Rasheed Walker is good for a 7th rounder, but that's not good enough to win a division. And we kind of saw that on Thursday night against the Detroit Lions. So, I think Tom can be a long-term starter, and obviously they were missing Ellen Jenkins in that game. That's a big loss too. But I think they need one more tackle. So maybe they think Tom can play left tackle. You go CJ or JC Latham. You go Amarius Mims here. You could, or Kingsley Suamataia, and just say, hey, he's going to become the next Bakhtiari. We'll keep Tom on the right side. But we'll address that in a future mock. Right now, I'm going to stick to the safety position. It's definitely a spot where I've been kind of looking to get them an upgrade. Let's go with Cam Kitchens. I think a true over-the-top free safety. Hopefully they bring back Darnell Savage. Let him play in the box, and I feel like it's a really nice 1-2 punch for the back end of that defense. All right, on to the Houston Texans here. I feel like I made this mock pick a ton. Thought about making it Chris Jenkins Jr., get a high-level run stopper in the middle of that defense, but ultimately neither one of these guys have been super, wow-inducing this season. Jenkins has been that high-level run stopper with a little bit of pass rush there. Taylor's been a really productive pass rusher where, again, I think he's kind of winning off size, arm length, and he's just a better athlete than everyone he's lined up against versus, just being that legit. Like a Johnny Newton's got the moves. He's got the hand fighting down. Taylor's still a work in progress. But that being said, this Houston defense, I think long-term is definitely on the up because of D'Amico Ryans, and I'd love to see them add this type of a difference maker, this type of an athlete with that frame, that type of upside right in the middle of that defensive line where I think they could use a big-time upgrade. And who knows, if they get the upside of variance with Taylor, him plus Will Anderson, who already looks like he's going to be a high-level player for that defense for the next half decade to a decade, all of a sudden that defensive line looks really, really good for Coach Ryans in the Texans. Next up is the Buffalo Bills. Let's talk about the offensive line again. This is where I'm going to have Amarius Mims come off the board. Spencer Brown, just simply put, has not been very good. And Amarius Mims is playing right tackle right now for Georgia. So wouldn't even need to move positions. And basically all the things that the Bills sold themselves on with Spencer Brown. Okay, he's got the frame. He's a really strong guy, pretty good fluid athlete. Amarius Mims does that just a little bit better too. But he also comes from the SEC versus Northern Illinois, where Spencer Brown's coming out of college from. So it just kind of feels like all the things they fell in love with Brown, Mims has, and just does it at a little bit better of a level, as well as a higher level of competition. So I like that a ton. And look, you're paying Josh Allen a lot of money. You want to keep him on the field. Amarius Mims is a way to plug that hole and hopefully shore up some pass protection moving forward. But also do a lot for that run game for sure. Next, we get back to the Washington Commanders. I guess not back to. We have the Washington Commanders pick here. I'm actually sticking offensive line. I'm going to go Kingsley Suamataia. Maybe a little bit of a step back in the wrong direction for run blocking, but pass protection is still in and about the same area it was last year. And, this guy, former 4-star recruit, awesome frame, really athletic, and made a big step in the right direction in run blocking last year. Again, maybe a little bit of a step back this year, but that showed the movement skills, and it kind of felt like light bulb went off. This guy's still learning. He's getting there. So he's a little bit of a projection play, my OT3, but I still have a lot of hope there in Kingsley Suamataia. And ultimately, if you watch the Washington Bills game, yeah, Sam Howell invites a lot of pressure and a lot of sacks, but that offensive line is also pretty rough. And Charles Leno's kind of one of those frustratingly average players where he's fine against bad edge rushers, but how many bad edge rushers are starters now, So I think they're looking for an upgrade there, and I think Suamataia has the ceiling to be a huge upgrade there at left tackle. Next, the Seattle Seahawks at pick 23. I'm going to go Chop Robinson here. A few different edge rushers I'd be intrigued by. Honorable mention to Laiatu Latu. I forgot. Mock Draft Database has him in at linebacker. So you could definitely go Chop Robinson here, and now that I look at it, no, I'll stick with Chop Robinson here. I have Laiatu Latu just a little bit ahead of Chop Robinson in my edge rankings. But nevertheless, Chop Robinson, a rocked up 250, pretty solid run defender, but great get off in another year where he's so far good as an elite pass rusher there in the Big Ten. And also, Penn State just, I don't know what's in the water, but God tier athletes left, right, and center. So he's going to test off the charts, and I think he's got enough there to already be a first rounder, even without like high-end athleticism. And ultimately, my main concern coming into the season was arm length, and we haven't really seen a major test there. So for right now, maintaining status quo, I still think a lot of Chop Robinson. And I think Seattle edge is the one spot where they definitely could use an upgrade. You add him in with Boye Mafe and, second round this last year, Derek Hall. Feels like there may not be one guy that immediately jumps off the page and says, wow, that guy's the future. He's, double-digit sack guy. That's a really nice deep rotation that's going to give a lot of offensive lines fits. All right, next up, let's get to the Baltimore Ravens. A little bit of a projection first rounder. I like me some Nate Wiggins. He's my corner 4 for right now. The size, the speed, like the highly touted recruiting process. Like there's so many boxes he checks. And he profiles to be a really nice man coverage corner at the next level and a man press corner in specific. Mike McDonald sprinkles in way more zone than what the Ravens used to do with Wink Martindale. But I also think Wiggins is a really nice athlete. Has the change of direction skill set to be able to fit into some more zone schemes. So really, I'm just trying to find an upgrade over Rocky Ya-Sin, find the number 2 corner to pair up with Marlon Humphrey. Wiggins may not totally be there yet. I think he's gotten a little bit better year over year at Clemson. Still some, obviously, time left this year where we can see some marked improvement, but I think he's going to test off the charts, become a first rounder because he has everything intangibles-wise that you want. I think the Ravens would be a really nice place for him to land to try to get the best version of Nate Wiggins. All right, then we get to the Detroit Lions at 25. I'm actually going to stay in the cornerback room. A little bit of a smaller prospect here, but let's go Mike Sainristil. He's just graded off the charts, both last year at Michigan and so far this season. He's been locked down for the Wolverines. So I'm going to trust the PFF grades and some of the broadcast footage. I haven't gone on a deep dive of Sainristil yet, but from what I've seen, just watching the games, and you look at his grades, this guy's got it. Again, may not be the biggest corner, but kind of in that Keelan King mold where it's like good enough athlete. He's got that scrappy, kind of tenacious it factor about him to where he'll be able to kind of overcome maybe where his height and his arm length limitations may arise. So, and I also think, Detroit, we haven't gotten to see Emmanuel Mosley yet. He was also on a 1-year deal. So is CJ Gardner-Johnson. Corner is going to be a sneaky need. We've seen a lot of growth in that Lions defense, but long term, there's still work to be done, specifically at the cornerback spot. So let's give him Sainristil. Plus, we know they like their Michigan guys, so it's a fun story keeping him in state. Next, Kansas City at 26. Pretty easy one for me to go to here. Jatavion Sanders. One, because however long you have Travis Kelce, that's an awesome 1-2 punch that can create a lot of mismatches against linebackers and safeties alike with some 2 tight end sets. You can even play Kelce out wide. Like this might give you the freedom to basically just play Travis Kelce at wide receiver. And then when you need to run with some attitude, those 2 tight end sets with Kelce and Sanders, neither one of them are like elite blockers, but 2 tight end sets, you're putting more weight in the box. You're giving yourself a nice advantage for when you need to get that attitude added into the offense with Isaiah Pacheco running up the middle. So it just does a lot to kind of just keep that offense well-rounded, while also giving you a long-term contingency for like 4 years from now. Let's say Travis Kelce hangs it up. Who's going to fill that hole in the offense? And I'm not saying Jatavion Sanders is going to completely fill that void, but for me, a clear-cut first-round tight end, and if not for Brock Bowers, an easy tight end 1 in this class, but Brock Bowers is probably the best tight end I've ever scouted. So, unfortunately, Sanders is going to have to settle for tight end 2, but I still think of him as a first-rounder. I would love to see him end up in Kansas City. Then we get to the Atlanta Falcons, and, thought about Quinn Ewers, still really high on Michael Penix, but, injury concerns there. Bo Nix, a little bit of an older prospect. I'm going to go Riley Leonard here. Guy who's played really, really well. Not only pass the ball, but also high-end rushing ability, too. So he's got great frame at 6'4", 235. I mean, like he's got everything you want from a size and build standpoint, but plus level athleticism. He plays in a Power 5 conference, and he's looked really good against really good defenses. And obviously, this weekend he gets Notre Dame coming off of a loss, so that's going to be a big test to see how he handles that Marcus Freeman defense. And if he looks good there, then I'm ready to pencil him in pretty firmly in first-round mock drafts for months to come. And I think with his rushing ability, if Atlanta's not looking to Kyler Murray, this could be the guy where it's like, hey, we need an upgrade at QB. We're waiting until obviously pick 27 in this mock draft. The draft order is certainly going to change in my mind. But he falls in our lap at 27. Already a better passer than I think Desmond Ridder was as a draft prospect. And we still get a high-level athlete who can kind of fit into the running stuff that Arthur Smith wants to incorporate in that offense. It's kind of a perfect fit. So we'll see what Leonard does against Notre Dame. We'll see where the Falcons end up drafting, because they may end up being higher up on the board, and maybe Leonard, they don't love the value there. But here at 27, I just couldn't pass it up. Next up, the Indianapolis Colts. And this is where I'm going to have Laiatu Latu come off the board. This guy just does nothing but impress me. Obviously there's going to be a huge kind of red flag that kind of goes around with him everywhere he goes. He's already retired once because of the number of concussions that he's had, or not concussions, rather it was a neck injury, but still, kind of that, upper spine to head region, not ideal, right? So because of that, had to transfer to UCLA, leaving Washington, but the 2 years at UCLA, he's posted a 91, pass rush grade, and so far this year he's just under 92 with 5 sacks already. The guy is just such a productive pass rusher at 6'5", 265. He's not just this productive college player. He's got the size, and he's a really good athlete, and there's really not many limitations on his game. And he also plays every snap like he's thinking it might be his last, which makes sense for a guy who literally was told at one point, you have to retire and you may never play football again. So love the high motor, love what he's already doing on the field. I think the hand fighting, the moves, the full repertoire is really there for Laiatu Latu. And he's a good enough athlete to where it's not just he's the guy who has the arsenal down but can't move whatsoever. Now he's got a nice blend of both worlds there. So I like him a ton as a first rounder. Think he probably should go higher than 28. But for Indianapolis, you're getting a polished edge rusher to add into Kwity Paye and Deo Adengbo, plus what you're getting on the inside from Grover Stewart having a great year, plus DeForest Buckner, of course. All of a sudden, the defensive line in Indy looks really, really stout. All right, next up, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm going to go J.C. Latham here. So far, just one penalty against Latham so far this season, which is awesome to see. And simply put, Chukwuma Okorafor is not good at right tackle. And Steelers fans are still kind of waiting to see Broderick Jones. So do they want to go first-round tackle again? I think here, if we're still picking at 29, which, take it from a Steelers fan, I don't anticipate that still happening. But if it does end up kind of coming to fruition that way, Latham at 29 would be a great value for a guy who, Kiper's number 3 offensive tackle. And he has plays and tape that's like, yeah, this is probably the 3rd best tackle in the class. But he also, when he guesses wrong, he gets grabby and he gets a lot of penalties. So things can be cleaned up there, but he's also on the younger side of being a prospect. So I think this could be the year where we see some of that cleaned up. And then hopefully, again, Pittsburgh will see Broderick Jones get on the field at left tackle. And then if they were to get their hands on J.C. Latham, replace Chukwuma Okorafor, it feels like that tackle situation is set long term for the black and gold. All right, now we're going to go to the other Pennsylvania team. That's where I'm going to have Barrett Carter come off the board. Look, I know Howie Roseman, they don't draft running backs, they don't draft safeties, they don't draft linebackers in the first round. But here at pick 30, maybe. It's also September, so get off my back. Let me have some fun here. Barrett Carter plus Nakobe Dean would create one of the most athletic linebacker tandems the game has right now. And I love what Barrett Carter's doing at Clemson right now. Preseason I talked about, I just want a little bit more of those anticipatory skills. The things that Jeremiah Trotter Jr. does really, really well. But other than that, he looks like he's flying around the field like he was just shot out of a cannon. True sideline to sideline ability at 6'1", 225. So he's not a super small modern age linebacker. He actually has a little bit of beef to him. And maybe this year hasn't been the best start so far for him. But I still think the talent is totally there. And if it's not Barrett Carter, you could totally convince me this should be Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Get his instincts and anticipatory skills next to Nakobe Dean. I love that tandem just as much. So either one of the Clemson guys, I'm cool with here at pick 34, Philadelphia. Next up, the Miami Dolphins. I'm kind of between two minds here, Dallas Turner or Braylon Trice. But Dallas Turner's played pretty well. And he's, we're seeing the pass rush PFF grades go up in the right direction. Already 4 sacks this season for the Crimson Tide. And he's a true junior. So this was kind of the year. Him and JT Tuamelo, who's not going to be in the first round here. We'll talk about some of the guys who just missed here and things I like about him, things I'm kind of still looking for. But him and Tuamelo are still really young guys. But I think I've seen a little bit more of that growth from Turner than I have from Tuamelo. And of course, Turner's doing it in the SEC, which, the Big Ten's awesome, but the SEC is just a little bit, give it a half step more of credibility, maybe. Super explosive first step. I just need to see, can he add some counters? Can he win more with strength? Can he get that inside counter? So for the season, we're starting to see him diversify that portfolio. So especially if he's, more than like 235 at the combine, if he gets to that 240, 245, maybe even 250 mark, I'm feeling really good about his ability to kind of play all three downs at the NFL level. So before we get to San Francisco, and we're going to actually go offensive line for the 49ers. I want to talk about some of the guys who just missed going position group by position group. Ewers, love me some Michael Penix Jr. Really wanted to get him in. Still have some optimism about Jordan Travis as well as Spencer Rattler. Tyler Van Dyke is currently PFF's highest graded college quarterback, so I really thought about sneaking him in here. Like a lot of the running backs this upcoming draft, and then in specific, my boy Estime. He's been awesome this season for Notre Dame. Both the Texas wide receivers are just on the outside looking in. Really thought about Xavier Worthy for the Kansas City Chiefs, but ultimately go with another Longhorn and Jatavion Sanders. Also still really excited about what Johnny Wilson can do. Offensive lineman, we're actually going to go Jordan Morgan here. We'll come back to that. Patrick Paul to me is a second-round guy. Connor Beebe is an interior guy for me. Upside there for Fisher. Tyler Guyton, just saw him on Mel Kiper Jr.'s way too early position rankings. He was someone that Alex from Hail Mary Sports shouted out pretty early on, so shout out to Alex for calling that one out. Interior offensive line, again, I like this class, but much more on the day two side of it. Chris Jenkins, thought about getting him in the first round. Another guy kind of considered for Kansas City. Mason Smith, high upside guy. Wouldn't doubt if he ends up going round one. Jack Sawyer, another former five-star recruit. Could totally see where he's a first-round guy. Just trying to cover all my bases. We already talked about Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Corner at this point has pretty much been hit. I think we got all the main guys I wanted to hit on. Maybe TJ Tampa. Safety, really big fan of Tyler Nubin. Would have loved to get him in there. Kalen Bullock, if he becomes a more sure tackler and better in the run game, could easily be a first rounder. Javon Bullard's another guy I like a good bit. And that pretty much covers our bases. Just want to kind of get some thoughts out there since we're not doing 2 rounds or 3 rounds just yet on some of those prospects that just missed. But we're going to go Jordan Morgan here. He's listed as of right now at like 6'6", 320. He's probably closer to 6'4", 315 to 318, which I don't think is the end of the world by any stretch of the imagination. Is it a little less than ideal? For sure. But I think in that blocking scheme that San Francisco implements, that wide zone scheme, and also Shanahan keeps those guys pretty clean and put into good spots where they have, the numbers advantage out wide. I think he has everything that Shanahan's looking for. Great movement skills, but he's also taken huge steps forward in the right direction and pass protection. He's always been a pretty good run defender. The one knock is, this season he's coming off of, an ACL injury that ended his 2022 campaign a little early. But so far in 2023, he's kind of picked up without any hiccups or any mess-ups along the way. So that's been great to see him get right back to where he was. He does play in the Pac-12, so, take that for what it is, not the SEC. I totally understand that. Thought about Javon Foster from Missouri, who's graded out really, really well, played really well, good athlete as well. So if you don't like, the Jordan Morgan pick there at 32 for San Francisco, Javon Foster's another one worth mentioning. They both play left tackle, so they would both have to flip over and play right tackle. But, guys, that'll do it for my updated 2024 NFL mock draft. Just 1 round this time. We're getting pretty close, though. I think in a month or two, I'll probably start cranking out some 2-round mocks. So let me know what you think about that down below, as well as what you think about this mock. Who went too high? Who went too low? Who's your favorite team? Did you like the selection I gave your squad? And if not, tell me what you would have done instead. I'd love to hear your thoughts and what prospects you're kind of keying on at this point of the draft cycle. That's going to do it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hit that like button if you did. Subscribe if you're new to the channel and want to see more NFL draft content like this. But until next time, my name is Teach, and I'm signing off.